Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Technology and Engineering Management TEM final project presentation. Our group name is Stonks, and our idea is, well, to put it simply, a mobile application that serves as a medium to enable the simplified experience of finding and booking sports cards. Over the years, sports have evolved from being more focused on the personal aspect to a more group-based activity, as in it involves more friends and families. People often play group sports like badminton or football together, which could be explained by the camaraderie which is instilled in a sense of shared commitment among the players. According to the Thai Health Promotion Foundation, probably more well known as SAW, a decade ago, 76.4% of Thais exercise to keep themselves fit, and the other 24.6% can be attributed to exercising from an invitation basis, health issues, and others. Evidently, even as far back as a decade ago, the second highest reason behind why people participated in sport activity is because someone invited them. This suggests a high influx of participation in group sports, which is motivated by the group aspect of the activity. That being said, there is also the aspect of exercising for personal health benefits as mentioned earlier. According to Statista, there's an obvious trend of Thai becoming more concerned with health-related issues, which leads to an increase in participation in sports activities and growth in its market. Latest findings in 2018 also shows that 73% of Thai consumers would like to exercise more. After these findings, we have established that the number of people exercising in groups is expected to increase and grow just as the sport industry will. However, there were specific questions we could not find answers to by research. And so we conducted a survey. Out of over 200 respondents, with over 66% being of age 15 to 30 years old, we found that 87% have exercised with their friends outdoors, which indicates the possible growth of the market. More critically, we asked what problems they encountered during the experience. Some of the most common problems identified can be seen in the slide, all of which share a similar causation, which is the lack of information and complication associated with the booking process. In order to dive deeper to understand customer experience, we constructed a model customer journey map. From the CJM, it can be seen that the rebooking process is the main culprit for the decline experience, whereby customers will have to call multiple places many times until they find one that is available. It is the moment of truth whereby they may choose to cancel the trip entirely. This is the primary motivation behind this project to make the finding and booking process easier.
Introducing Sportini, a mobile application that we will develop as a medium to enable this simplified experience of finding and booking sports cards. This project can be classified as an operational project since it supports and improves the current operation of phoning the card owners to reserve and replacing the pen and paper record keeping. As for the project criteria, a non-financial model was chosen for our project. Since in the initial phase, we simply aim to broaden the user base of sports players and card owners. If the initial launch happens to be successful, gaining a substantial market share, we might consider the financial model. The objectives for our customers are to create a platform that aids them in searching and booking sports cards. Sportini aims to improve the experience for reserving your sports cards and attract more customers to a healthy lifestyle through the enhanced and simplified process of booking. For card owners, Sportini aims to secure a bigger user base, increasing their returning rate and increase the exposure to the untapped market of sports players.
Before we move on to the project methodology, let's take a look at our technical requirements. Since our solution have a total of 2 sides, including card owner, user, and admin side, we will have 2 UX/UI designers. For the front-end developer, there should be 3 people since we have to build 3 user interfaces and also to indicate many back-end functionality such as authentication and Google Map APIs. Assuming only 6 group members, it is possible to assign the back-end responsibility to the last individual. Once our resource and cost scheduling is completed, we may consider modifying the required number of manpower for each role again. Now let's come to our work breakdown structure. For each website, we obviously need to develop the user interface according to the design, then integrate the functionalities with the backend including authentication, Google Map integration, reservation, and Sports Center management system for these sites. Finally, after all these developments are completed, all that is left is the deployment. With the complete WBS, we then integrate it with the operational breakout structure. Your UI designers are responsible for the conducting user research and designing the user interface and experience for each site. Front-end developer will handle the task of developing the user interface and integrate the functionality with Google Map, authentication service, and backend APIs. The backend developer will handle the operation behind the reservation management, Sports Center management, and deployment of the program. Next, we choose to implement the top-down method of time and cost estimation. With the given budget, the fund will be divided to the designer, front-end developers, and back-end developers accordingly. Each team will then allocate the fund for their respective work package. In the next step, we assign each work package with an ID, identify their predecessor, and estimate the day usage for each of the tasks. Then we construct our forward and backward task diagram which tell us that our project will take a total of 30 days to complete. In addition, we can also identify the critical path, which will allow us to identify work package with flexible timing.
Now, we decide the number of designers or developers required for each task. A Gantt chart is constructed from the available time resource. It helps us assess how long a project should take and determine the resource needed so that the leveling technique can be applied. Assuming that each personnel has to stick to their own role, for example, a front-end developer cannot do back-end development, we decided to reduce the amount of personnel required in a single day by smoothing resource demands. Previously, we mentioned that we would reconsider the technical requirements. Upon analyzing the resources available, we cannot reduce the number of designers since all designing tasks are in the critical path. While front-end has 3 developers, we decided against transferring a front-end developer to a design task since introducing the third designer would result in a negative synergy, complicating the decision-making process and impact the project performance. Additionally, we can move the front-end developer to a back-end task since it is the critical path. Here, we constructed a cost per day table. Each work package will be assigned an amount of budget that can be seen in the slide in 1,000 baht units for each day that they are operated on. From the cost per day table, we created a cumulative cost table. From this, we can see that the budget is assigned and compiled in a daily time frame. Ultimately, this table will serve as key checkpoints for the Sportini project, in which we can see how much cumulative budget will be spent on each operating day. All in all, the cumulative cost graph as seen here represents the cost of the project over time. Finally, let's explore the usability testing and its evaluation conducted by our UI/UX designers. For the user side, we will conduct a quantitative test that will be remote and unmoderated with approximately 50 people. Firstly, we will use the time on task matrix to see the total duration of time spent on a task. Their task will be to find and book a sports card that they wish to reserve for. We will then ask our participants to answer our post-test system usability scale, or the SUS, which will be measured on a Likert scale from 1 to 5. You can see our questions in the slides as shown. For our card owner site evaluation, we decided to use the learnability as our testing matrix, as we need to measure how increasingly efficient our users become over time. This will be a qualitative process requiring approximately 4 participants.
Last but not least, we believe that risk management analysis is necessary for our business to be more prepared for unforeseen circumstances. We decided to use a probability and impact matrix to analyze risk for its simplicity. This is a form of qualitative risk analysis. First, for the negative risk. For the annual haze, we can mitigate the risk by ensuring that our available sports courts include a high portion of indoor sports. With the pandemic, it is difficult to respond to the risk in the previous manner, and hence we should accept the risk. For the blackout or server crash, we believe that we should have a backup electricity generator, electricity storage system, and backup server to mitigate the risk by lowering the impact in which it could cause. For the positive risk from reviews, we can enhance the experience by hiring influencers to review our application. For the trend of fitness and exercise, we can exploit it by putting more resources and hiring more personnel to ensure that the application runs smoothly and is constantly updated to match the growing market. Another negative risk which we have not brought up yet, but cannot be avoided, is the rise of competitors in the future. From our competitor analysis, we found that currently, no one in the status quo has an application which combines many available sports courts. There are only services for reserving sports courts for their own businesses, and this is what distinguishes us in the market. The primary response for this is that it would take time for others to copy this idea and develop a system possibly on par. During that time, we should be building business relationships, business connections, and developing our application to be better at distinguishing ourselves in the market. Thank you for listening to our presentation.